Have you ever felt like life keeps repeating the same painful lessons, over and over, no matter how hard you try to rise above them? As if the universe itself is placing the same type of people, the same situations, and the same betrayals in your path? You might start to wonder, am I cursed to relive this struggle forever? But what if I told you, this isn't punishment? It's a deeper kind of preparation. A sacred test disguised as repetition. In the last 6 videos, we uncovered why good people are misunderstood, why they lose what they love, and even why the emptiness you fear might be your greatest teacher. And today, in this 7th chapter of our journey together, we'll explore one of the most frustrating and confusing tests on the spiritual path, the one where life seems to trap you in the same old patterns, until you realize what it's really trying to show you. Stay with me, you're closer to breakthrough than you think. In our last reflection, we spoke about those haunting moments when life seems to trap you in the same lesson, no matter how hard you try to move forward. Now, let's look closer at why these patterns return, and what hidden wisdom they might be offering. It's a strange, almost ghostly experience, thinking you've finally overcome a lesson, only to find yourself walking into a situation that feels unsettlingly familiar. It's like stepping into a room you promised yourself you'd never enter again. The faces may have changed. The circumstances might look different on the surface. Yet somehow, the energy, the dynamics, and the emotional wounds feel exactly the same. You might find yourself drawn to the same type of person, someone who, at first, seems to reflect all you hoped for, yet inevitably disappoints you in the same old way. Or maybe you land a new job, convinced it's a fresh start, only to watch the very same toxic dynamics from your last workplace slowly emerge again. Perhaps you even move cities or countries, seeking a clean slate, yet notice yourself recreating the very problems you were desperate to leave behind. At first, it feels easy, even comforting, to blame it all on bad luck, or on some cruel twist of fate. Surely, you think, the universe can't be this merciless, placing you in the same painful storylines time and time again. But as these patterns resurface with undeniable clarity, another, far more unsettling possibility begins to dawn on you. What if this isn't happening to you, but through you? What if, without realizing it, some unexamined part of your being is unconsciously recreating these situations because a deeper lesson remains incomplete, a part of yourself you still haven't fully met in the mirror? For sincere, sensitive souls who have worked so hard on their healing, this realization can be heartbreaking. You've read the wisdom books, sat through long meditations, seen your therapist, made your forgiveness lists, and promised yourself that you've moved past these patterns. And yet, here you are again, staring at what feels like an endless loop of painful dynamics. You start to wonder if all your effort has been a beautiful illusion. To understand this, let's travel to the high, wind-carved mountain passes between Tibet and Nepal, where a merchant named Sonam once made his living, known across the region for his sharp wit and even sharper negotiating skills. Sonam built a thriving business trading rare medicinal herbs and precious stones. Every merchant, pilgrim, and traveler admired his ability to turn a simple deal into a handsome profit. But while Sonam's business flourished, his personal life was quietly unraveling under a pattern he neither understood nor escaped. From the time he was a young boy, one persistent shadow followed him. Every partnership he formed, whether in business or friendship, would start with warmth, mutual admiration, and shared ambition. Sonam would connect with someone whose strengths perfectly complemented his own, someone he trusted and valued deeply. Yet as time passed, old, familiar problems would surface. Small disagreements over money, decisions, or recognition would slowly fester. Sonam would begin to feel unappreciated, taken advantage of, or unfairly criticized. Tension would grow into sharp arguments. Partnerships would sour, and what once seemed destined for greatness would crumble into bitter separations. Each time, Sonam was certain the fault lay with the other. Next time, he told himself, "I'll choose better," but history would repeat itself, over and over. So often, in fact, that murmurs began to spread throughout the trading routes. Fellow merchants would quietly warn one another of Sonam's tendency to turn difficult, his habit of burning bridges, and the trail of fractured alliances left in his wake. And though Sonam blamed circumstance, personality clashes, and fate itself, the real source of this suffering was far closer to home than he realized. In our last story, Sonam believed he could outrun his patterns by changing his environment. But as you'll soon see, wherever you go, your unexamined lessons tend to follow. As things in the mountain passes grew increasingly tense, Sonam, once a respected, welcomed figure at every trading post in the region, found himself growing isolated, mistrusted, and quietly shut out. The very communities that once sought his partnership began to avoid him. Frustrated and bewildered, Sonam convinced himself the problem must lie with the region itself. Perhaps, he reasoned, the thin mountain air clouded people's judgment. Or maybe the culture up here was simply incompatible with his business instincts. So, Sonam packed up his belongings, sold off his trading post, and made his way down to the lower valleys near the Indian border. There, amidst warmer plains and bustling markets, he hoped for a clean slate, a place where no one knew his name. No one had heard the stories, and where he could finally put all those old failures behind him. He was certain that a new environment, free from his previous reputation, would give him a fair chance to apply the hard-earned lessons of his past. And for a while, it seemed to work perfectly. Sonam quickly established himself in a lively market town, known for its colorful stalls, the scent of spices in the air, and traders arriving from distant regions. Here, no one whispered his name in warning. He soon partnered with a capable, seemingly honest local merchant named Karma. Their early ventures were smooth, their profits steady, and Sonam quietly congratulated himself. Finally, he thought, "I've chosen the right person. I've broken the pattern." But as the weeks turned into months, something subtle, like water seeping through the tiniest cracks, began to shift. Small disagreements, once brushed aside, started to feel personal. Sonam began noticing moments when Karma seemed not to fully appreciate his ideas or experience. When customers praised Karma's deep local knowledge, Sonam quietly heard it as a dismissal of his own worth. Little by little, jealousy, resentment, and old insecurities crept back in, like unwelcome guests he thought he'd left behind in the mountains. Before long, the same power struggles, bruised egos, and unspoken tensions that had unraveled his earlier partnerships resurfaced. Despite his best intentions to behave differently, within a year, Sonam found himself embroiled in another bitter conflict with yet another failed partner. And once again, the marketplace began to hum with the same uneasy murmurs, the same cautious warnings, that had once driven him out of the high mountain passes. This time, however, the painful truth was impossible to ignore. The landscape had changed, the people were different, but the pattern was identical. The geographical escape had solved nothing. In fact, the sheer repetition of the problem in a completely new setting stripped away every excuse Sonam had clung to. He was left with one undeniable conclusion: he was the common thread in every one of these failed relationships. One cool evening, as the last merchants packed up their stalls and the market square grew quiet, Sonam sat alone in his small quarters. Weary and defeated, his heart felt heavy, and his mind tangled with confusion. Just then, there was a soft knock at his door. An elderly Tibetan nun named Pema stood at the threshold. She had traveled down from a remote mountain retreat in search of supplies for her nunnery. As custom dictated, Sonam welcomed her inside, offering her tea and a place to rest for the night. As they sat together, warmed by the gentle glow of an oil lamp, Pema's calm, knowing presence began to ease the tightness in Sonam's chest. Through soft-spoken questions, she gently drew out the long, troubled story of his business partnerships, his repeated disappointments, and the growing sense that he was trapped in a pattern he could neither escape nor understand. Pema listened patiently, without a trace of judgment. From time to time, she would nod, not as someone politely pretending to understand, but with a quiet recognition that seemed to come from somewhere deep within her own hard-won experience. And so, dear friends, Sonam sat in silence, face to face with a gentle, compassionate soul who truly listened, perhaps for the first time in his long, restless search. Little did he know, the wisdom Pema would offer that night would hold the key to breaking the cycle he thought he could never escape. But that is a story for our next video. Thank you so much for spending this quiet, reflective moment with me today. If you found something meaningful here, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to Daily Dharma Wisdom, and share this story with someone whose heart might need it too. And don't forget, in video 8, we'll uncover the beautiful lesson Pema gave Sonam, one that just might transform the way you see your own repeating patterns. Until then, may you be well, may you be peaceful, and may you be free. See you in the next video.